How's the Detroit Sports Podcast going?
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
You guys keep up the good work, man. Podcasts are the way of the future.
So, cuz, did the Lions respect the process versus Minnesota on the road? Fuck no.
Dude, they look like they're trash bag wearing head coach. Super unkept and just a hot mess.
From last week's episode, the Doc said, and thank you so much for finding us. You're listening to the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm the Doc. That's Adam Strozinski. You know him from WDFN. WDFN Tailgate every Sunday. The Jock in the DocNJock podcast does a great fantasy football podcast over there at iHeart. I said last week, look, once the Detroit Lions traded Golden Tate away, you really didn't have to invest emotionally in the team. It made it pretty much straightforward that we all know what Bob Quinn's thinking, and he wasn't thinking about 2018. But with the caveat that you could be mad if they went out there on the field and laid an absolute turd, which is what they did on Sunday. And it's absolutely unacceptable for the professional franchise that represents Detroit to play like that, period. So I was pissed. Now, I will say this, and it might probably go down the rest of the season this way. I did not watch the game live. I taped it, and I went to work, and I said, look, you know what? Making money is definitely more important to me right now than investing in the Lions, but I definitely will watch. I definitely will support. I definitely will analyze the Lions come hell or high water. I'm not going anywhere like my best friend who just left and abandoned the team and went on to be a bandwagon fan for the Denver Broncos. Come on, Kenny, shame on you. But
is that what he's doing?
Yeah, he's not a Lions fan anymore.
Why Denver?
He's just a fan and a supporter of the Broncos.
That's so weird.
For the last 5 years, yeah, he's been Lions free. Oh, yeah, if you follow what he's messaged us at TV Chips, oh, yeah, he's just a Lions hater, and he just comes in and says, you guys should have abandoned ship years ago.
Was that the whole reason for you could just ignore it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I was like trying to figure it out, and I was like,
yeah, exactly.
I could ignore it, but I hate Kelly Stafford, so,
you know. My boy Kenny, Lions free, he jumped to a new team. I will never do that. So I watched that contest. And
but the Broncos, I'm floored. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm so taken aback by the Broncos.
Should have went to ask him. Why the Broncos?
I don't understand the Broncos. I'm going to have to.
Yeah, tweet them.
I don't.
Yeah, the Broncos.
The Broncos.
Oh, yeah.
Really, the Broncos. So you could have any team.
Yeah.
How long ago was this? You said 5 years ago?
Yeah, more than that maybe. He's been Lions free.
The Broncos, though.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm befuddled. I'm tweeting it right now.
Cuz, how many football games have you watched where the kickoff is fucked up? I've never seen that. What the fuck? The kickoff was flubbed. Sam Martin, it's like that's one of the things you practice. You run up to the ball and you kick it. He damn near almost fell down and messed up. I mean, wouldn't it have been fun if you would have just whiffed completely?
Oh, it would have been great.
Oh, my gosh. So the game started off like that.
But you know what, though? That is the second messed up kickoff I've seen in 2 days because there was the Ohio State-Nebraska kickoff. Did you see that?
Oh, no!
Yes, Dan Miller. Oh, no, is right. Did you see the Ohio State-Nebraska kickoff? The kicker kicked the ball backwards. Like he clipped the top of the ball and he sent it flying behind him. I don't know how you do that or why you do that, but he did that. So in 2 days, I seen 2 bad kickoffs.
And then you go and you look at the performance and you say, wow, man, the offense just really never got into rhythm, special teams mistakes. The Minnesota Vikings were able to impose their will. And again, like everybody said when you looked at the Detroit Lions team, okay, they're supposed to be kind of getting better on defense. The running game's supposed to be a little bit more proficient. Did that happen versus Minnesota? Absolutely not. They laid a turd. They looked uninspired, a lot of mistakes. And you look at it and you go, wow. Another performance. Half of the performances in 2018 for the Lions have been absolute crap, and now everybody's pointing the fingers at the offensive line, special teams, Stafford, coaching. Everything that pisses off fans happened in that game versus Minnesota. You can't go out there. Look, you can lose the game. You know, we're not oblivious. We're not naive to think that they could have went out there and win, but all we can ask for is step one. You know, you got a new coach, a new era. can we just stop with the garbage performances? At least go out there and look like a professional football team.
Do you feel like this team in the fan base itself, maybe more so the fan base, is at a crossroads with the team? And maybe not on the level of the Million Man March, but the way that this team is losing, the weeks that it does put up an L. You look at the Jets game, completely dominated, basically from kickoff. 49ers, that was a game that had a chance to win. There was a penalty flag. You can look at that if you want, but if you go back and you really watch that game, for 3 quarters, they got their shit pushed in. You look at the Cowboys game. That was a game they should have won. They could have won that game. They shot themselves in the foot. The Seahawks game, dominated from step one. It led me to have to issue apologies to people this week on the WDFN tailgate. And then you look at the Minnesota game this past week, where honestly you didn't feel comfortable at any point in this game. Like they were just manhandled from the word go. When they lose, they look so freaking bad. And then you've got a head coach coming out, and he's firing special teams coordinators. And I get it. Your special teams coordinator probably should have been fired because that special teams hasn't helped this team at all. You'll break off a touchdown, and next thing you know, it's coming back for 57 yards because you got a block in the back. Penalty after penalty. But you can look at the defensive coordinator. You could look at the offensive coordinator. You could look at all the coaches. This team looks pathetic.
And all you got to say, one of the key markers you might be able to remember back from 2018 in this episode of the podcast, 10 fucking sacks, 9 points.
Dude.
How embarrassing is that to put up there among many things that are embarrassing with the Detroit Lions? 10 fucking sacks against your quarterback, a guy that your job, number one job, is to keep upright. And some people have now gone back and reviewed it, and basically 6 of the sacks are on the offensive line. A couple of them are coverage sacks, and a couple of them are just based on the fact that Matthew Stafford's holding on to the ball too long. And it just goes to show you, and this is kind of why some other quarterbacks and other people now are jumping on the bandwagon of looking at the Detroit Lions and being critical of Matthew Stafford. You have to be, because of the fact that the offense is not doing what it's supposed to. You got to go out there game in and game out in an offensive league and drop 28 points. You just have to. You got to score touchdowns. You got to look a lot better.
You got to
throw the ball
up for you to do that.
Throw the ball to Kenny Galladay. He's got to have a performance like Michael Thomas of the Saints.
Throw the ball to Marvin Jones.
You got to be able to throw the ball, and people across the league that cover football have just looked at the Saints. If you just looked at the Saints and the Rams and you watch the Lions, it looks like a different planet, a different universe.
Absolutely.
And people have said that the Saints, they ran like almost 30 different personnel groups in the first half, and the Detroit Lions are running the same 12 plays in different variations. And so to look at, I'm going to ask you a couple questions here. How much of that game, the way it shook out, do you blame on Matthew Stafford? And people are now around the water cooler asking the question, can Matthew Stafford run a more complex offense? I mean, you would think Jim Bob Cooter's not a complete boob. He does have the ability to throw things out there. I don't think he intentionally is just wanting to keep everything so vanilla and not exotic. But can Matthew Stafford actually go out and execute it, because of the fact that you look at the last couple seasons, they seem to have a good working relationship. They seem to kind of have the formulation of an offense, but I just don't think it compares to what the top teams are doing. You look at the Rams, you look at the Saints, you look at the Falcons, they're adding pieces, and the Detroit Lions, it seems like they're stuck in the mud and running the same bullshit offense that doesn't get them anywhere. What the fuck's going on here?
I think a lot can fall at the feet of Matt Stafford, especially in that game when you're down by roughly 2 scores and you have a chance. You're kind of driving. This team at certain points throughout this game they just kind of couldn't get out of their own way. It was like their feet were in quicksand. But you got a quarterback who is trying to run the ball. I don't know if he's just trying to do too much. I don't know. I'm so floored by this entire play. But Matt Stafford's breaking to the sideline, and he's got a defender coming at him, and he decides to flip the ball to Kerryon Johnson, who looked totally surprised by it. Next thing you know, it's a fumble, and it's going back the other way for a touchdown. At that exact moment right there, you just shot yourself in the foot, and you hurt your team. So I think you could put this loss on Matt Stafford, and I don't think that's stretching or saying too much. This loss falls at the feet of Matt Stafford. I don't know if this season, the issues with this season are Matt Stafford's fault. I think a lot of this has to do with, 1, coaching, 2, personnel groups. I think this team has continued to run the wrong guys out there at the wrong time. You know, how many times do you need to see LeGarrette Blount out there? You really don't. You only need him for 3rd and 1s, right? Can we all agree? You need him for that tough yard when you need to get a touchdown and you're stuck on the goal line. That's when you need LeGarrette Blount out there. Otherwise, you got other running backs on this team who do a ton of different things, who make it so much harder for defenses to cover. Play calling itself has been just frustrating from a fan's perspective because you watch the game. I watch the game. When we watch the game, you can call where the play is going. I mean, when I was watching the Seattle game, I looked over at Ryan and I was like, watch, they're going to run to the left. What'd they do? Ran to the left. I was like, they're going to run off tackle to the left. Watch what happens. Ran off tackle to the left. I'm calling this out. Think of me as an expert if you want, but really and truly, I'm just a guy. You know what I'm saying?
I
just watch more football than probably the rest of you.
Imagine defenders watching film. They must be like, what the hell? This is easy.
Exactly. That's my point.
And you got to remember, the Vikings did this with just a 4-man front.
That was probably the worst part of it all, right? So you got 10
Nothing
sacks.
exotic.
Exactly. You got 10 sacks, and you were bringing the house with 4 guys. This is your revamped offensive line. This is your offensive line that you have spent 2 years building and creating and crafting, and there's 5 of those guys, and they couldn't stop 4 of the other guys. What are we talking about here? And think about it. If you have a running back step up for pass pro, you now have 5 again. You have 6 against 4. And then if you keep a tight end in, you now have 7 against 4 guys, and they're still getting to your quarterback.
So here's the fucked up part about the Lions, okay? Most people will say, don't you dare blame the fact that Golden Tate got traded. This team still has talent. But you got to remember, this is the most dysfunctional organization in the history of the National Football League, okay? I was probably going to throw out a tweet that said, I fully expect the Lions to lay down here and get blown out 35-0, okay? Because what happens? You look at it and you go, what should happen is you should have pride. The organization should go, wow, they just traded Golden Tate away. That means we all got to step our asses up and show what we got here, that we got to now, next man up and handle your business. No, you can't expect that at all. What happens? The Lions go and lay down and lay an absolute turd because the message has started to creep into that locker room that, hey, the organization doesn't believe in us. We're probably all going to get broomed out of here. That can't happen when you have a leader like Matthew Stafford. If he's actually a real leader, you can't have that. You're supposed to rally around that. I mean, a real organization might have rebounded and played their best absolute game and make it their Super Bowl to show everybody that, look, it wasn't a one-man team. No, you went and you laid down. And that's what's so frustrating is that why is it that a new coach, there should be a new energy, a new mantra, something different. Fine. You go out there in weeks 1 through 7 and you say, look, our special teams are not doing the job. We got to handle our business. Yet you go out there and every decent return is followed by a yellow flag. You go out there and you say, okay, you're a defensive wizard. By now, after 8 weeks and all the training camp and all the practices and all the film study, you can't figure out how to fucking close the hole so a running back from the opposition can't run 70 yards through the line. You would think that could be shored up. The part that's most frustrating, and I was telling Jason, is the things that are on film that need to be repaired don't ever get fucking repaired. Coach after coach, regime after regime. And then the bullshit is, I would just rather have the coaches just come out and say, nothing, no comment. Just go out there and say, look, respect the process. I don't want to talk to you. Here's a fine. Instead of Paul Pasqualoni coming out and telling the fans, I think Tease Tabor's getting better. He's fucking rated the worst at his position in the entire league. The worst. How's he getting better? At giving up plays? He's not getting better. I mean, you insult the fans who are very smart and passionate about the Detroit Lions, and you go out there and you bullshit the fans and say, and Matt Patricia's like, I like what JBC's doing. You look like a fucking moron. How do you like what he's doing? Nobody likes what he's doing. How do you like it? Are you trying to bullshit everybody? Look, you can lie to us in a different way, but you can't say you like it when everybody's calling for his head. It's absolutely disrespectful. It's not right. And it's intellectually dishonest because Tease Tabor's not getting better. He's getting better. I mean, cuz the things that you read are unheard of. There is a perfect quarterback rating up until the game versus Minnesota against him. Meaning, whenever the quarterback decides to look his way and target him, his ass is getting burned. He's slow. He's going to be another terrible second-round pick. It's an absolute disgrace. And it doesn't take 8 weeks to cut Amir Abdullah. So you look at it and you go, it's not right to go out there and bullshit the fans, and it's not right to be 5 steps behind. You know what I mean? This is the Detroit Lions. It's going to take a miracle to have success. And when you're always fucking behind, it's absolutely disgusting on so many levels that it would take 8 weeks to decide that Teez Tabor needs to sit his ass on the bench. It's a disgrace all the way around. I mean, everything's to blame. You got the offensive line, JBC, Stafford, the coaching, the players, the management. Everything in a situation when you have a performance like that is absolutely disgusting, and it can't happen. You got to have some pride. Hashtag one pride. What does that mean? It's like hashtag lie down. You can go out there and compete. You don't have to win every game, but you can't look unprofessional. You can't look like you didn't watch any film. You can't look like a team that's never played football before. It's disgusting, and we deserve better. We deserve to sit down and get excited like I was when it was like, damn, Rams Saints. I was like, I'm getting my popcorn ready. Lions fucking relegated DVR.
Yeah, it's
disgusting.
No, man. Like, I love your passion. As you can tell, I'm just kind of like, whatever at this point. You know what I'm saying?
No, you can't look like garbage. Look, you can lose, but you can't look like garbage.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. But this team has taken so much out of me already this year, and the season's only half over. I've got how many more games of this crap? I'm so frustrated by them. I just can't amp it up like you have it amped up today. Like, I'm proud of you for bringing the energy like this. I'm just as frustrated as you. And you're right. It is intellectually dishonest by this organization to come out there and be like, oh, JBC's doing a great job. No, he's not. No, he's not. Like, everybody, you could tell week one he wasn't doing a very good job. And then don't tell me you like what Teez Tabor's doing. He's getting better every week. No, he's not. Like, honestly, at this point, you have to start looking at a position change for Teez Tabor. That guy should either be a safety because he's so slow, or he needs to be your nickel cover. You know what I'm saying? That's what he's got to do. He does not deserve to be out there playing cornerback. He gets beat all the damn time. All the damn time. Him and Evan Lawson. Both of them. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. And you're right. They don't run enough, what's the word I'm looking for here? They don't have enough dialed up
creativity.
Yes, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. They don't have enough creative plays
to fool defenders that are smart, knowing what's coming. Yeah, they know what's coming.
When you run the same formations, the defender's like, okay, cool. So like we got to cover 3 plays here because they run the same formation out of this. So all you got to do is if it's going to be a pass, you just bring your safety up, or you have your safety shade over just in case it gets by the corner. I mean, that's what good defenses do, trying to help each other out, protect each other just a little bit. Not the Detroit Lions. We're going to let Darius Slay get beat all day long because he's Darius Slay. He's big play Slay. Giving up big plays is what he's doing. Anyways, you're not giving them anything exotic to look at. Everything you're giving them is vanilla. It's like running the same offense you ran in the preseason. Thank goodness.
Yeah, it's a situation in which maybe they won't make the change until after the season, but along the way, holy cow, we still got a half of a season to watch this garbage. Another half of a season, 8 games, where we got to observe this offense not doing a whole heck of a lot. 3-5 after the first 8 games. Basically, the season's over because you got the crux of your schedule ahead, and you're not going to go and win 7 games of the 8. It's just not going to happen,
right.
So it's done. But I do want to ask you this. After 10 years, it would be nice if our quarterback was heralded, had respect, was showered with praise like Drew Brees or Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. No, instead we got to hear national media now starting to come and attack and repeat the same things that us podcasters and local media are talking about in regards to Stafford. But there are some people that have come to his defense, 1 being his wife, 2 being his former teammate and Dan Orlovsky. So I'll read you this and I'll get your sense of it because it's being talked about all over. And it's, again, I do think now more of the haters and more of the people that are off the bandwagon are starting to question, can we win with Matthew Stafford? Is this the guy that we're supposed to go out? I mean, started with Sunday. Deion Sanders said, look, if I'm paying somebody $27 million, give me something for it. Rich Gannon comes out and says, look, you know what? This guy's padding his stats. This guy is one of the biggest reasons why the Lions are not successful. And then you got, his wife coming to his defense. You got his supporters that say it's the organization's fault, the O-line's fault. It's not Matthew Stafford's fault. And then you got his former teammate, Dan Orlovsky, who on Twitter on Tuesday came out and said, enough is enough, in bold. Fans, I'm all for critiquing someone's performance and all, but let's not attack someone who's given you his heart, soul, and guts like Matthew has. He's given the team and city everything he has, and all the time, the dude gives everything he has. The least you can do is respect that.
Okay, so let's stop right here.
It rings hollow.
It does. Here's the thing. I like Dan Orlovsky. I think he does a really good job with everything he
Quality,
does on
smart
Twitter.
guy.
I think he's awesome at diagnosing plays and critiquing quarterbacks. I think he's phenomenal at it. Honestly, I think he's awesome at what he does. When it comes to Matt Stafford and being brutally honest about Matt Stafford, he can't do it. He can't do it because he's been in that room with him way too much and way too long. They basically have held hands since Matt Stafford came into the league. All right? Dan Orlovsky cannot be critical of Matt Stafford, and I don't need to hear Dan Orlovsky tell me how Matt Stafford gives his heart and gives his soul. Cool, Dan. Cool. Matt Stafford's been here for how long?
It's 10 years
10
now.
years. Okay, cool. 10 years. You know what? I've been a Lions fan for 35. So eat my ass with a fucking spoon, bro. I don't care that Matt Stafford gives his heart to this team. I give my heart and my Sundays to this team every single day. I don't need to hear you tell me about how Matt Stafford does this and how Matt Stafford does that. I don't care. You know what I want? I want wins. I want a team that wins. If it's the organization that's the problem, cool. Blow it up. Get me somebody else in here who knows what the hell they're doing. All right? If it's the quarterback, get him out of here. Get me somebody else who knows what the hell they're doing. If it's the offensive line, you've already tried revamping it once. Let's revamp it again. Get me W's. That's all I care about. The defense is atrocious. The defense has been abysmal all year long. Absolutely abysmal. And you want to tell me how, oh, don't worry, guys are getting better on this, and guys are trying harder, and we're doing this. No, you guys still suck. Like, you guys give up 5 yards per carry to running backs. 5 yards. Like, let that sink in just a little bit. You could start a team at 1st and 15, and they're still going to get a first down and maybe some more yards if they just run the ball 3 times. That's how bad you are. That's how awful your defense is right now. You just went out and you traded for the second best run stopper in Snacks Harrison. And he can't even fix your run problems. I'm starting to think maybe it's Paul Pasqualoni. Or maybe it's the guy who's pulling the strings. And maybe it's the guy who wears the trash bag on the sideline who hasn't shaved his beard in months. Maybe it's that guy. I'm pretty sure there's a bird nest hanging in there. Just guessing. Not real positive. And you know he can't smell real nice. Probably smells like Famunda cheese and shit. It's got to be horrible.
And look, if Matthew Stafford was sitting here, the one time maybe he picks up our email or looks at his phone and goes, damn, okay, maybe I'll give these guys a bone and talk to them. He would say the same thing. At the end of the day, football and sports is about wins and losses. You can't have a blank resume and expect everybody to be on board with it. It's just not right. It's not intellectually honest. It's not fair. And I think that, personally speaking, when he goes home and talks to his boys, he goes, damn, it's just now 10 years. He's got to sit there and be like pissed off that there's nothing to show for it. He's grinding, working out, spending time away from his family. The check is nice, but it's got to wear on you to lose and be part of an embarrassing situation. You want to have respect. Everybody anybody that does anything wants to at least be respected for what they're doing. And right now, the Detroit Lions are far away from it. It's just hard to be positive. And everybody's like, oh, people are so negative about the Lions and things like that. It's because it's been damn near my whole life now, 39 years of this. It's like we deserve a little bit more. And that's all we ask for is step one, look like a professional team for more than just, 4 games at a time for a whole year. You got to go out there and handle your business, and let's see what happens. But, yeah, it was a tough loss, definitely one in which you get angry and you sit back and you go, damn, how much can I even do it? How much can I even fast forward through a DVR and watch it? I can just read the box score and follow along on our Twitter page. Our fans will tell us what's going on.
The worst part was that game was set up for them to win. Yeah. Minnesota was so banged up defensively. Yeah. On top of that, you were bringing Dalvin Cook back and working him in. Mind you, Dalvin Cook's got the hamstring of a cadaver at this point. It's ready to snap because it's so brittle. Yet that guy's able to take off and put 70 on you with one run. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, honestly, man, what are we talking about? They should have won this game, and yet they lay a total egg. Just an absolute dumpster fire on Sunday.
All right, let's take a break. We're going to come back. We got a special guest this episode, some news regarding the Lions and Detroit Red Wings. So we went out and we contacted Sean Baligian, WJR radio host, to come in here and break it all down. What's going on with the Lions? Where do we go from here? The Red Wings have been in the news. They're winning some games, and so we want to talk to those in the know. Sean Baligian, a great friend of the podcast. We'll get him on the line right after this. Adam, I want to tell you about one of the great sponsors of the podcast, the Motor City Pawnbrokers. The Motor City Pawnbrokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're in need of short-term cash or are looking for quality, brand name, new, and pre-owned merchandise with locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren. Their mission is to deliver exceptional value. So if you want to know and you're curious about the Motor City Pawnbrokers, check out their website, motorcitypawnbrokers.com. On the phone with us here on the Doc and Jock podcast, he is the WJR radio host, Lions pre- and post-game on Lions Radio, friend of the podcast, here to talk about the Detroit Lions and the Detroit Red Wings. Sean Baligian on the line. Sean, how are you?
Excellent, guys. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure chatting with you guys again.
Now, look, before we get into the craziness that is the Detroit Lions and Red Wings, how have things been with you over there at WJR? How are you enjoying broadcasting?
Oh, I'm loving it. It's a great place. I work with a bunch of great people. You know, when you have the opportunity to work with, you know, guys like Paul W. Smith and Frank Beckman and Mitch Albom, and I really didn't know Guy Gordon, you know, even all the years that, you know, I've been fortunate enough to do a little TV, and he was in TV, and Guy is just such a legitimate good guy. And, you know, obviously Courtney is an, you know, a mainstay here and for so long. It's awesome. I'm having a blast there. I really am.
What's been the best part of you taking on this new role as the voice, the pre and the post game voice for the Lions?
Well, it's been a lot of fun to do the you know, to do something that I've done for so many years at you know, a couple different radio stations now. So I mean, that in and of itself is awesome. But you know, to be able to do some shows at WJR is, you know, as cheesy as it sounds, it's dream come true stuff. You know, I've been able to fill in for Guy and fill in for Frank and fill in for Mitch, and it's a lot of fun. It's a different beast. There's no doubt about that. But doing those types of shows, it's like a drug, to be honest with you. And it's, you know, you get a little and you want some more. You know, I mean, that's the cool thing about it. So I've been able to do that and juggle, you know, some other things that I do in the business. But, you know, all jokes aside, working for the guy who hired me in this business is a pretty cool thing. You know, WJR program director Mike Wheeler hired me back in the day down in Toledo. So it's funny how, you know, things turn out in the business. 23 years later, I'm working with him and for him at one of the most legendary radio stations in the world. So that's pretty cool.
You are absolutely a tried and true, I guess, showing of good guys land on their feet and good guys sometimes finish first. So you do a great job. I want to transition into the Lions here. Why has this team been so damn inconsistent?
Well, first of all, thank you for the kind words. That I'm very humbled by them. Thank you very much. In regards to the Lions, your guess is as good as mine, because, you know, there have been a couple times this year where I think a lot of people felt that they were kind of turning a corner. And for me, I'm not even talking about the win against the New England Patriots and the Green Bay Packers. For me, I was duped with that win down in Miami. I just thought that was a total win. And it's not that Miami's a great team by any stretch of the imagination, but what was the talk going into that? The Lions haven't had success on the road, and Miami's taking care of business at home, and, you know, the temperature and everything, and the Lions are going to fade. The Lions were in complete control of that game. I thought on both sides of the ball, and in particular for me, guys, what really, you know, warmed the cockles of my heart was the way that they finished that game. So call me whatever you like here, but I was duped by that performance, and I thought that was something that was going to be a starting point for kicking up a notch, so to speak. Then the Seattle game happened, and that was a cold splash of reality, no doubt about it. And this past week against Minnesota, the word that I kept using on the radio, and I'm going to keep using it to this day, because quite frankly, it is what it is. It was listless. That was a listless performance. And I cannot stand when I hear people question players or team's heart. I think that's a dangerous road to go down. So I wanted to make that crystal clear. But I will question in this regard how much passion and emotion there was in that game. There was, they were listless. I mean, you guys saw the game. I think the people listening to this saw the game. There was no spark. There was nothing there. It was a really weird watch. So that's what I'm intrigued at looking into this game against the Chicago Bears, who, let's face it, we've seen Jordan Howard do big things against the Lions in the past, and I'm totally frightened what he might do in this particular game, considering you're talking about a run D that is giving up about $142 a game.
Now, Sean, I want to put it to you this way. When it was announced on the schedule that it was going to be the Rams and the Saints, everybody got super excited, and it was a game that lived up to the hype. Offense galore. You saw big plays. You saw both teams running up and down the field. And I think that's part of the reason why the NFL ratings are up. People are excited. And then you double back and you look at the Lions offense and we're still having these questions of why aren't they throwing it to Kenny Galladay more? Why isn't Kerryon Johnson a little bit more consistent in his performance? When you look at that offense, is it just as simple that JBC's offense is too conservative, or is it something, or something where, you know what, the talent is just not there in order to execute something to look like the top offenses in the league?
I was about to say, in my opinion, absolutely. I think it's part one. I really do. It's very strange because I think Jim Bob Cooter won over a lot of fans. If you remember when he took over in 2015, in my mind, this is just my opinion, I think he kind of threw caution to the wind and said, hey, let's open it up. You know, we're a team that's struggling anyway. Let's open it up. And you saw a lot of good things. And conversely, I think that Matthew Stafford took a little bit of a step in the process as well. I think you've seen him be more efficient with the football. I think you've seen the QBR go up. You've seen the completion percentages go up. And you've seen the turnovers go down. I don't know what happened to that guy. And I'll go back to the Miami game. I thought that he did a tremendous job calling that game. I really did. I really liked the diversity on that offense and some different looks and all of that. I really don't think it's a talent issue anymore, guys. I'm sorry. And if that makes me a cornbread eater, if that makes me a slappy, so be it. I think that Matthew Stafford is a good quarterback. I think we've seen enough out of Kenny Galladay to realize, that there's still a blossom yet to happen. I think we know that Marvin Jones has made some big plays. I think of all the 50-50 balls that he and Matthew Stafford have hooked up on that have become 100-0 because of Marvin Jones making good adjustments on the ball. Kerryon Johnson, I mean, what more needs to be said? I don't think I really have to pump his tires, so to speak. So I don't think it's a talent issue anymore. Now, this past week, it was a talent issue in this regard. That offensive line that Bob Quinn has made his pet project, that offensive line got blown up. So that's an issue, when you're not able to get plays off. But, I'm willing to chalk that up to a bad performance against a team that was hungry and got off after it, because I think we've seen some pretty good performances out of that offensive line this year. So I really don't think it's a talent issue anymore. I really don't. I think this is a case where the offense has grown a little mundane. It's grown a little stagnant. And as you said, I think it's grown uber conservative.
I want to double back to something you said. When Bob Quinn took over, you said you felt like he kind of threw caution to the wind and just kind of opened up the playbook. With the firing of the special teams coordinator and what unfolded on the sideline when Bob Quinn or when Jim Bob Cooter went over and started just verbally undressing the offensive lineman and pointing at Matt Stafford saying, you have to protect him, you have to protect him. Do you think that was a sign of desperation on his part? And do you think with the firing of the special teams coordinator, maybe now he'll open up the playbook and he'll throw caution to the wind again, and maybe he finds a way to save his job?
I hope he does. I mean, and I think that's what it comes down to. Look, I mean, he was an incumbent as it was. And there was a lot of speculation that a big reason he was back is because of the familiarity. And quite frankly, I don't care who you are. And you guys know the debate on Matthew Stafford is still ongoing. I think it's a silly debate. I think he's a good quarterback, period, end of story. And unfortunately, in this day and age of extremes, people aren't happy unless everybody's screaming from the mountaintop that he's great or everybody's screaming from the mountaintop that he sucks. Well, both those sides are wrong. I think he's a good quarterback. And at the end of the day, you have to do what you have to do to put him in positions of comfortability. And certainly Sunday was not one of those positions of comfortability. If I were Jim Bob Cooter, absolutely, I would take on that caution to the wind approach that helped Matthew Stafford take the step. And this is what I was saying earlier. I mean, honestly, even if you're one of those people that you don't think that Stafford's done enough, or you're one of those people that think he's already done enough, I don't think anybody can deny he took a step from mid-215 on. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that can deny that. And I think the numbers bear them out. When I say the numbers, I'm not talking about, the stat padding stuff. I'm talking about, the QBR. I'm talking about the completion percentages. I'm talking about the turnovers going down and everything. So if I were Jim Bob Cooter, absolutely, I would be concerned to be on the hot seat, because that's not Matt Patricia's guy. That's not Bob Quinn's guy. That's a guy that's been a carryover for, a couple different regimes now, when you're talking about a general manager and when you're talking about obviously a head coach. So yeah, definitely. I would take that same mindset that they had in the middle of 2015, when it looked like that was going to be, one of the bad Lions seasons for the ages. And I would start applying some of that here, because guys, as crazy as it sounds, this season is still salvageable. There is very little room for error, but it's still salvageable. But you cannot afford to lose. Quite frankly, I don't think you can afford to lose 2 more games. I mean, honestly, I really don't think you can afford to lose 2 more games. I mean, this is a situation where you've already lost to some of those teams that are going to be in the mix and tiebreakers and whatnot. I'm not sure the Lions get in with a 9-7 record. And as Bob Quinn said himself last year, and I applauded him for saying it, 9-7 isn't good enough anyway.
Now, Sean, I want to call upon your fandom, okay, because, I've called upon people to kind of look at this as year one of Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn, but it's so hard not to look at the entire history of the struggles of the Detroit Lions. And then you see a move like what they did with trading Golden Tate. You see the extraordinary cap number that they have. There's going to be some money to go out and get free agents. You see the 9 draft picks. So there is a little bit of hope that you have, but at the same time, you look at some of the draft picks that haven't panned out. Some people are more in line to want to go out and get the big name free agents. How patient are you, knowing the history of the Lions, that there's going to be success maybe in the next 5 years? Because I feel like, as a podcaster, a guy watching sports, mine is teetering just a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit.
Well, I mean, you nailed it. I mean, the last thing in the world a Lion fan wants to hear, or the last thing in the world you should say to a Lion fan, is the P word, for patience. Come on. I mean, we've had to live with that our entire lifetime. So I can't blame you or anybody else for having that mentality. I will say this. I look at Bob Quinn, and I look at his track record so far at drafting, and I'm content. I really am. And this is a situation, when you look at the draft as a whole and how little value they've been able to get out of the draft. I mean, this goes back forever, guys. I mean, take a look at their general managers and throughout history. It hasn't been pretty. You aren't going to fix a lot of what ails this team overnight. And, one of the things that I talked about with Bob Quinn on the network when the season started is, Bob, how close is this? That was the one question that I asked him. I said, how close is this roster to being where you want it to be? And he took a second, and you could see him thinking about it. He said, we're close, but we've got some work to do. And I think that was part of the reason, my humble opinion, that they felt like they needed to make the move at head coach. I loved what Bob Quinn said. I think Lion fans need to hear this. 9-7 isn't good enough. And we have to stop comparing the Lions to the Lions, because so many people said, 9-7, we had our first 2 winning seasons since the mid-90s. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything when you go 9-7 and get hammered in a playoff game, and then you go 9-7 and miss the playoffs. Aim higher should be a thing. We should compare ourselves not to Lions teams of the past, but we should compare ourselves to what teams in our own division and all around the National Football League have been doing. And this is a franchise that has, to put it mildly, been sorely lacking when you start playing that comparison game.
On the phone with us right now is Sean Baligian. He is the Lions radio pre- and post-game host. You can check him out on WJR here locally. Now, I have a question for you in regards to Bob Quinn. Do you think he hurt himself when he came out and he said that he expects this team to make it to the playoffs this season? And then you look at the results on the field, and it has you scratching your head. Then there's a trade for you trade away Golden Tate, who was probably your most productive wide receiver, and he was Matt Stafford's security blanket, especially since we have no tight ends on this team. Do you think he essentially inserted his foot into his mouth and maybe misspoke last season when he was hiring Matt Patricia?
I think that he knew what he was doing. That's A, and B, I think there's no question about it. To your question, that the pressure's on him now. Mm-hmm. I think two things, and you mentioned one of them. Number one, when you say something like that you felt that team last year, that 9-7 team should have been better and should have been a playoff team. Well, absolutely. Conventional wisdom would tell you then you are making moves to take that next step to alleviate some of that issue, whether it be bringing in a new coach, whether it be the draft, whatever the case may be. But to me, the second part of that, and this is where, again, this is a guy that is putting pressure on himself. There's no doubt about it. For 2 years now, he's tried to rectify what ails this team on the offensive line. Last year, we never really got a chance to see it, but that was his number one project, to get this offensive line, in a cohesive unit type of fashion. But at the end of the day, last year we never got a chance to see it. There were a lot of injuries, attrition. I think some people, you have to just accept that as fact. And this year, boy, it looked to be going in that direction, and then it just took a massive step back last week. I am going to be very interested to see how this offensive line responds. Because, just a couple weeks ago, people were going crazy over this offensive line, and Pro Football Focus had given them some high marks and everything. When you have a game like this, I think that does away with all the goodwill that had been coming along. So I think at the end of the season, if things continue the path that they're on right now, there's going to be a couple checks against Bob Quinn for not only not getting better than that 9-7 mark, but certainly not rectifying the issues that have ailed this football team for a long, long time, and that's getting a cohesive offensive line.
Adam and I have been greatly enjoying chatting Detroit sports with Sean Baligian. Follow him on Twitter at Sean P-B-A-L-I. Now, with our last few remaining moments, I want to get your sense of what's been going on over there at Little Caesars Arena with the Detroit Red Wings. How have you perceived them, and especially now with their play of late being a little bit better?
Well, I don't think there's a lot of talent there, and I think, people have finally, in my humble opinion, I think people finally in mass have kind of accepted that there just isn't a lot of talent there. Look, guys, I'm of the opinion that the last few years, I think not only has the fan base in a certain extent done this, but I think the franchise in a great regard has done this. I think they've overrated some of their own talent. I mean, they have some good pieces. There's no doubt about it, okay? But I think in the earnestness to say, hey, this is a new era of Detroit Red Wings hockey, and, we've got some guys that people are familiar with, locally. I think what they've done in the process is they've created this false sense of level of player that they have with a few guys. I'm going to use one as an example, and I don't want you guys or anybody else to think that I'm dogging this guy. Dylan Larkin is a good player. He's a good player. But I think some have tried to make Dylan Larkin into being something that he's not.
Hallelujah.
I don't think that he's a great player. I don't think that he's the face of the franchise type of player. I don't think today this is such a high skill level league today. I think more so than ever, where if you got a few guys that are that high level skill, it makes all the difference in the world. Dylan Larkin isn't that guy. And as I said, I know somebody's going to take that like as a shot against Dylan Larkin. It really isn't, because Dylan Larkin is the type of guy that I think every team in the National Hockey League would like. But at the end of the day, I think they've tried to put him on a pedestal that he doesn't belong. And unfortunately for the Red Wings, I think there are a lot of guys like that. I'm going to give you, I love Franz Nielsen. I do. I love Franz Nielsen. I think Franz Nielsen as a hockey player is a guy that every team would like to have. When you're asking a lot of Franz Nielsen, however, I think that's an issue because I think he is what he is as a player. And I think the Red Wings have a ton of players like that. I mean, you even go back to the days. Remember when Danny DeKeyser first burst on the scene? I'm not joking. I'm not going to mention any names. There were some people that were talking about potential Norris Trophy. What? I mean, that's the kind of stuff that you hear and you just shake your head. So I think in years gone by, the Red Wings have gotten away with a little bit of that because guys, could get lost in the mix, so to speak, with some of the great players that had been here in the past. I think today, it's a very dangerous thing. And my worry is this is a franchise that hasn't fully grasped the concept or the idea that they are in full rebuild mode right now. And that frightens me because some of the moves that you make, you can elongate the issue. And I've made this crack a few times, but I'll tell you this much, guys. If you don't embrace the idea of a rebuild, the rebuild will embrace you. And when the rebuild embraces you, it isn't pretty. And that's a little bit of what I worry about. I think the chatter about Jeff Blashill is kind of funny because, I use this line often, so forgive me if you've heard it before, but you could take the DNA of Scotty Bowman and Toe Blake and Eddie Shore and Don Cherry and Al Arbor and Glenn Sather and make super coach. And I really don't think that they're going to turn what is this lineup and its talent level into something special. That's just the way it is. Now, if you want to hammer on Jeff Blashill about some other things, we can have that conversation. But if it's about results, this team isn't very good. And again, that's not mean. There just isn't a heck of a lot of talent there. So, as you continue this process for their sake, hopefully they can develop some of these guys. I think at the end of the day, that they had a fantastic draft last year. Now, it looks good. We have to see how it plays out. But, I was very fortunate to see a lot of these guys play at the junior level. I think you guys know I've called some junior hockey and some college hockey, even all the way up to the NHL in the past. So I've seen some of these guys do what they do at various levels, and I can speak to the caliber. But right now, man, I just think that there's a pretty good talent void with the Detroit Red Wings and really throughout the entire franchise right now.
Sean, we'll get you out of here on this and really enjoyed the conversation with you today. Is Zadina that guy who will be your franchise player, the guy that everybody wants Dylan Larkin to be?
I think he can be. I really do. I think he can be. You can't write a guarantee for pretty much any of these guys. I mean, unless you're at the very, very tip top of the draft. But this is a guy that, quite frankly, probably should have been at the top of the draft. It was funny. I one of the comments that I made before the draft is, I couldn't see Zadina slipping this low. But with that being said, if I was a general manager, I wouldn't have been able to pass on Brady Tkachuk. I saw Brady Tkachuk play for a couple of years, and he's Keith Tkachuk 2.0. I mean, that's the type of guy you go to war with a guy like that. You keep him on your team for as long as you can keep him on your team. So when he slipped to 6, that was kind of shocking to me. Now, the Habs kind of went off the board a little bit, but that's turned out well for them. All the people that were kind of hammering the Habs for their first-round draft pick, he's looking pretty good right now, truth be told. But when he slides to 6, to me, I thought he was a better player than 6. And I thought one of the funny things that he said, if you recall, after he got drafted, the whole, I can't wait to make Ottawa and Montreal pay. Well, that's music to anybody's ear. It takes some time. You never know how long it's going to take. No two players develop the same way, and there are going to be some growing pains. But I think the potential certainly is there for him to be a high-level skill player. And the Red Wings desperately need a high-level skill player. They don't have any. They really don't. I know sometimes people get frustrated when you say that, and I don't know which one of you guys it was that said, hallelujah, when we were talking about Dylan Larkin. You fight the same fight that I do. It's like, well, why do you hate Dylan Larkin? I don't hate Dylan Larkin. He's a darn good player. Just don't put him on a pedestal that he doesn't belong.
We've had the privilege of talking to Sean Baligian. It's always great to dial him up, thank you so much for the time. We hope to do it again. Thank you so much. Follow him on Twitter at Sean, SeanPBali. Support him on WJR, Lions, pre- and post-game. And on the TV side, definitely check him out Sundays on the Fox 2 Sportsworks. He gives great analysis. I always make it appointment viewing. And when Sean's on, definitely enjoy it. Thank you so much. We look forward to talking again.
Anytime, guys. Pleasure chatting with you.
Thanks, Sean. By the way, Drew wanted me to tell the handsomest dad in Northville. He said that he loves him, and he wants me to make sure I have a spit cup ready for you.
I took the dip out right before we started talking, so we're safe. So
awesome.
No,
hey,
good chat, guys. I enjoyed it.
It was awesome. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, Sean. Thank you so much.
All right, you take care. Bye-bye.
Take it easy.
That was Sean Baligian. Always enjoy the time with him. What a great conversation. Gives us half an hour of his time, and just a good dude all around.
Dude, he's the best. Like, honestly, he was like, all right, I give you guys 10, 15 minutes because he's a busy guy. He's running around doing all kinds of things. 15 minutes turns into 30. He's the absolute best. Quality human being. When I said nice guys do finish first sometimes, he's one of the nice guys who's doing big things. So check him out. Follow him on Twitter. Sean Baligian, everybody. Awesome.
Final timeout. We'll come back. Got to recap Adam's experience at the Big House, some issues with tailgating, how his experience was watching Michigan take on Penn State. We'll come back, finish out this podcast talking about Michigan, looking like they're on track for some big things. Stay with us. You're listening to the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Adam, up until this point, the network has recorded 1,100 podcasts. We've only used one host site, Podomatic.com. If you're looking to start a brand new project and you want to grow to the level of success as the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, you got to have a great host site. If you're going to book a guest like Sean Baligian and get 25 awesome minutes talking Detroit sports, you want your audience to hear it. We've got an audience now all across the country and even overseas. And that's largely due to the fact we got a great host site. So if you're going to start a brand new podcast, definitely go and check out Podomatic.com. Rolling right along. Thanks, everybody, for your continued support. Free and easy way to support us is go check out our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com, for all the info that you need regarding our network. Thanks again to all the new subscribers, everybody making it fun for us to go cover sports. It really makes it fun to have supporters like Putty that come in here and just light up when they come in here. Recently had my cousin's husband in here with Vito talking baseball, and it's just really fun when people enjoy the process. They understand what a podcast really is, and they understand what we're about, and it makes it fun for those that do not assume and ask questions and see what we're about and what we've done. And I can always tell, too, when we get new subscribers because you see an uptick in all the past shows that get downloaded, so it's really cool every single day to get new people that message. And finally, you know what's happened in the last 2 months that I really did not expect?
People stop asking for a legitimate business?
No. That probably never going to
That still goes on.
The ladies have come in strong.
Oh, I love it.
The ladies are coming in blasting with the intensity a little bit more than even I have, and I absolutely love it. Look, we'll retweet you. We'll definitely shoot down anybody that says you're just a female. Don't bring any noise here. Look, the females have come in and said...
Who the hell says shit like that? They deserve to get punched in the mouth.
Exactly, and don't be scared.
Ladies, send it all this way.
Yes, they came in strong. They've been coming in strong regarding the Lions, Stafford, JBC. Thank you so much, ladies, for following us on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. And
if you're from Mali and you like sports,
yeah,
follow, for sure. We love it all.
Or go to the voicemail. Get yourself heard worldwide, 248-579-8686. Any platform in which you want to get your sports voice heard, we will put it out there to the masses. We're the best place to do it. No filter. We don't care, and we don't judge. Good, bad, or indifferent. Good question, bad question. Anything at all you want to message us, we love it. Every single piece of it. Early response, some people are really excited for having Sean Baligian on, and that's what makes it fun, is that people in town will want to talk to us because of your great support. It means a lot. All right, cuz, you had an interesting experience. I kind of wanted to recap how your tailgate went. You said that there was a new wrinkle that might have totally fucked up the whole project.
Yeah, it was weird. So me and my cousin, normally we go once a year to at least one Michigan game. Sometimes we'll go to 2 or 3. We didn't get a chance to go last year, and that was on me. I was working a lot of night shifts, and I just couldn't afford to take the time off because we were so short-staffed. So I couldn't take days off to go to a Saturday game with him. So this year we went, and normally we park at Pioneer High School. It's right across the street from the big house.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. Everything's great. Well, apparently, I don't know if it was last year or this year, they changed up the way they do things. Now you have to reserve a spot. And I've seen this at a lot of different tailgate areas. You go online, you reserve your spot, you show up, you have to bring your printed pass and show them your printed pass, and they'll allow you in. So we're driving around, trying to figure out how to get in. And always see your pass is only. So we pull over, we talk to somebody, and they're like, yeah, you have to go to this website. You got to go and you got to reserve your spot, and then you have to bring us the printed pass. And I'm like, what the hell? I was like, this is such a pain in the ass. Normally you just flip some cash out, you go park, and you have a good time. And it was like that pretty much everywhere we went. Like, we got to Ann Arbor super early. We got to Ann Arbor probably about 10 o'clock. We didn't actually get parked and situated till about 11:45. We just drove around for an hour and 45 minutes looking for a parking spot, trying to figure out where we wanted to be. So Putty was in here on Friday with us, released that show on Saturday, and I was trying to get as close to Putty as possible because he had a pretty sweet spot. Anyways, tried going to Pioneer. Like I said, we drove around there like 3 times before we finally pulled over and asked somebody what the hell was going on. They told us that you couldn't go on your phone and download or make the purchase because they're already on to the Indiana game. So that sucked. Went over to look at the golf course, couldn't get on there either, so that sucked even more. So at this point, we're like, crap, because normally it's Pioneer or it's the golf course. We end up driving around. We end up down this back street near the athletic buildings. End up parking there. Only $20. It was actually awesome. $20 was freaking perfect. Normally, I was willing to pay up to $75 to park. So me only having to pay $20 to park was freaking fantastic. Turns out it was a pretty decent spot. Everything was all up in the front. Like, everybody was up front with it. And we kind of got pushed towards the back area of this parking lot. We ended up parking there. We found a little grass area so he could set up his easy up, got the grill out. We were right next to a porta potty, so no wait there. We had our own trash can so we could throw all of our garbage away. We had these 2 dudes who ended up showing up, became friends with them. It was awesome. It ended up working out really, really good. The only bad thing was we spent so much time driving around, and by the time we got set up, I never had a chance to go meet back up with Putty because he was on like the other side of the world compared to where we were at. So that sucks. So I was like, all right, cool. We'll just meet at the game. And we go to the game. My cousin ended up just shelling out some cash because we got some sweet tickets. Like, when Dylan McCaffrey's collarbone snapped in half, like, we were right there. Like, I got hit in the face with bone shards. Like, that's how close we were. We were sitting right in the end zone and maybe 20 rows off. It was so freaking close. I don't know if we've been this close. Absolutely incredible seats. So we get to the game, we get to our seats, get everything situated, and Putty's up in the student section. Like, he's like, I think like he's 8 sections over, but he's like way up top, we're way down low. So he's like, come up here, there's room up here for you. And I'm like, bro, like, no, because we've got like incredible seats. Like, honestly, when I say they are incredible seats, I'll show you some of the pictures I took. I'll actually use them in this podcast when we send this podcast out. So just like, that's how close we were. So then I was like, all right, cool. I was like, I will meet you at halftime. Let's meet at halftime. Let's meet. I basically went halfway between what section he was in, what section we were in. I was like over by the bathrooms, basically. I'll be in the concourse. I'll be by the fencing. He was like, all right, cool. Somehow, some way, there was some miscommunication. We ended up, me and my cousin left with like 3 minutes left in before halftime. I was like, let's just go up there because he had to go pee. So I was like, let's go pee. Let's wait and whatever. So 25 minutes maybe go by and I'm just hanging out waiting. I'm like, dude, where you at? Mind you, my phone is about to die. I have no idea what the hell was going on with my phone. I must have like 87 apps running in the background. Phone's about to die. I'm like, bro, where you at? We're over here. What's going on? And Putty's like sending me pictures of where he's at, like looking at the field. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, nowhere near that area. Like, not there. I'm over by the bathrooms, in the fencing, by the concourse. And like, we just couldn't get on the same page with it. And my cousin's one of those guys where we got these seats. We're going to sit in these seats because this is what we paid for. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Myself, when I go to a game, I'm not necessarily there to watch the game. I'm there to take the game in. I'm there to take the ambiance in. I'm there to have a good time. And if having a good time means we have to move and go with other people, we move, we go with other people. I'm there for the party. I'm not necessarily there for the game. If I want to watch a game, I got a television at home. I can watch the game. That's so we're generally different that way. So I was with him, so we were watching the game. And I never had a chance to really hook up with Putty, which really made me upset. We were going to go look to go grab a drink afterwards. Couldn't find parking, so we just ended up calling it an early night and went home. But yeah, so if you're going to Michigan, you're going to a Michigan game, make sure you go online first. And there's a website. I don't remember the website offhand. It's like Park Ann Arbor or eventparkingannarbor.com or something like that. And make sure you reserve and download your parking pass and print that bad boy up because they need the paper copy. They won't do a digital copy. Just FYI.
So quickly, give us the state of Michigan because a lot of people, I think we're going to have time to flush it out more in coming weeks because I don't see Rutgers and Indiana really posing a significant threat. So we're going to have a chance to go in depth and maybe talk about how Michigan could compare to Alabama because as it sits now, Michigan's number 4 in the college football playoff ranking, and we'll get a chance probably to break it down more after Michigan destroys Rutgers. But it feels good, too, I would assume, for Michigan fans to enjoy not only destroying Penn State, but winning in a fashion that really hits home to what this Michigan team could do. This is a team that could win the Big Ten, that could get to Indy, and I think Michigan fans are starting to really enjoy the 2018 season and maybe even to the level of maybe even cheering for Sparty to make your job a little easier versus Ohio State.
If you're a Michigan fan, you better be cheering for Sparty. You really should.
Because you could go into that game already having it locked up in Indy.
That makes your job that much easier. Here's the deal. This is becoming a very, very, very special season.
Special.
It's looking that way. It's shaping up that way. Honestly, with the way this team is playing right now, I'm not really worried about a team like Alabama. Not worried about a team like Clemson. I want Notre Dame again. Those teams all have issues, just like Michigan has issues. Michigan's Quinn Ordine can't kick a field goal. If you watched the Penn State game, there were like 5 fourth downs that Jim Harbaugh just went for it on, like 4th and 1s. There were times where they were within Quinn Ordine's range, and he was like, "No, we're just going to go for it." So at this point, Jim Harbaugh has no faith in Quinn Ordine. That's a huge issue. At this point, Quinn Ordine probably doesn't have any confidence in himself. But what Michigan does really, really well is they have the ability to hit explosive plays. Alabama struggles with that. What does Notre Dame struggle with? They have an inconsistent run game. Hey, Michigan's got one of the best run-stopping defenses. You can take advantage of that and capitalize on it. You know, all these teams have issues. Michigan has a very good special teams unit. What does Clemson struggle with? They struggle with some of their special teams aspects, like punting. So Michigan can take advantage of what other teams do. I think Michigan's going to be a hard out for any team that they meet in the playoff if and when they get there. The way this team is shaping up and the way this season's shaping up, it looks to be absolutely incredible if you're a Michigan Wolverine.
How excited are you getting at the notion that maybe Michigan could finally hit some goals and some big-time goals like Indy, Big Ten titles, some hardware, maybe even enjoying a contest in one of the college football semifinals? It'd be great. I would love to see, however it shook out, because obviously I'm not a Michigan supporter, but I would love to see mano a mano, Nick Saban, Jim Harbaugh. Kind of has a feel of a main event situation.
Dude, that would be awesome.
Alabama, Michigan should happen. That'd be great. A good semifinal because you got probably the most prolific talent in Alabama, and it could be an underdog story against guys that are made up of a collection of a solid team with Michigan in that defense. It would be great to see. I still think Alabama has an edge because of the sheer number of talented individuals, but I think it could be a game probably better than what Michigan State gave Alabama.
Oh, absolutely. Every win gets a Michigan fan a little bit closer to the end game and to the prize. So every win, I get more and more excited. Like during the week, I'm just kind of like, all right, cool, whatever. But every time they go out there on Saturday and they come away with a touchdown or they have a big win, I get so pumped up. There were times during the Penn State game where I was jumping up and down. I swear, my cousin's back has to hurt because I was smacking him on the back, hitting him on the shoulder, jumping up and down. I was basically on his back when Michigan returned that pick. Was it pick 6, right? If I recall correctly, I was drinking that day, so memory's a little fuzzy. But I was jumping up and down. I was super excited. So every time they do a big play, every time they play awesome, man, I just get that much more riled up, and you start to believe. And it's at this point, it's okay to start to believe. You know, I really tried to hedge my bets with this Michigan team. I didn't want to buy in a whole bunch. After that Michigan game, I totally bought in. Penn State, I'm there. it's go time, right? It's go time. Ohio State is now on the horizon, and it's getting prepared to take on Ohio State and beat Ohio State.
And that game will have epic proportions. It's probably going to be a good one, and we hope that there's a lot at stake. I kind of hope it does mean a lot. So even though, I'm a Spartan supporter, I would like Michigan, Ohio State to mean something definitely for all fans to watch, because when the pressure's there, then you'll see who performs. So let's see if Ohio State and Michigan both win out. Big game in Columbus. All right, because this is a fun podcast. One of the reasons why we do it every week is to have great chats with Sean. I mean, literally, we were listening to every word, and you could hear the passion in his voice. And I think it was a great podcast, great interview again with Sean Baligian. And I really enjoyed doing this each and every week with you. Thank you so much for the time. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Thanks, everybody. And we look forward to coming back next week with more great content on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Go Blue.
Thanks, John. I just hope I don't fuck this up.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me. They talk to me.